suffering is kind of a good fuel for art.
I think most of my growth comes from suffering.
Right.
You know, if I didn't go through what I went through, the development, you know, the moving along part, it just wouldn't happen the way. So yeah, man, the greatest sufferings bring the best art. Life took its course, obviously, you know, and this wasn't an easy journey at all. You know, we went through COVID and then some other stuff. I had to leave Vietnam, ended up in Cambodia. After Cambodia, ended up in Thailand. It did have its whole challenges, but is it something that I would do again? 1,000%.
Would you do anything different?
Yeah.
So many things.
Yes, I would do a lot of things differently, but there's this piece within me now that knows everything led me to here right now, right where I am. So I have to be grateful.
Yes.
And give gratitude towards that.
Welcome back to Heads and Tails, making up for lost time. Today on the show, I'm speaking with my friend DJ, a talented singer-songwriter, producer, teacher, business entrepreneur, and a true risk taker. DJ left his motherland, Trinidad, over 4 years ago to embark on a life-changing journey across Southeast Asia with stops in Vietnam, Cambodia, and now Thailand. Along the way, he's not only honed his creative skills, but more recently embraced the role of a guide and mentor, hoping to give back to the community in ways he wished he'd experienced himself. In the episode, DJ shares the captivating story of how his adventures began, the pivotal moments that shaped his path, and sprinkles in his unique insights on history, life, and more, all delivered in his unmistakably charming way. Get out of the house, put on your headphones, and enjoy this inspiring conversation.
What it do, brother?
How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm great. I'm finally happy that we can finally come together and, make this thing happen.
Yeah, man. Just timing.
Hey.
It's all syncing up now. Sadly, it's during the time of some catastrophes happening in Chiang, but we still find the time to get the content going.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what you think about this, but suffering is kind of a good fuel for art.
Well, bro, I think most of my growth comes from suffering.
Right.
If I didn't go through what I went through, apart from just the creative side, but the development, the moving along part, it just wouldn't happen the way. So, yeah, man, the greatest sufferings bring the best art.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad that that's the case, but at the same time, it's like, it's a part of life, you can't dismiss suffering and be like, oh, I don't want to suffer. I only want to be happy. I think that's true suffering, because if people want to always be happy, they can't naturally always be happy. They have to supplement that with chemicals and other sorts of things. So that pursuit for constant happiness turns into unhappiness at some point.
I mean, are we ever really truly happy? I think
that's another freaking point, right?
That's the whole thing. I think our happiness is just defined on what we see fit that day.
Right.
What we see fit for the next couple of months. Our satisfactions.
Right.
And I think once we don't have those satisfactions, typically it's very hard to find the happiness unless you go back to just simplistic living and just being grateful to wake up every morning. Have life. Be grateful for making it back home at the end of the day. Time is a construct that is not even constant or doesn't even make sense. So just in that case, I have started to find my happiness in the simplest things, gratitude, just being thankful for what I have, where I'm able to wake up, it's a lot of craziness in the world going on right now.
Absolutely.
We are going through flooding here. People are losing their homes.
Yeah.
The wars that's going on in the Middle East, it's just a lot. So these are the times where we have to really go back to just being thankful,
Absolutely.
And I think the happiness could come from there.
Happiness comes from the inside, for sure.
Yeah.
I think I keep saying this on all the episodes, but it kind of feels like all social media, and that's kind of why I'm doing this as well, because I watch a lot of social media. I've been on YouTube for 12 years, and the content that's being pushed out is just for how can I get the most clicks, how can I get the most likes, and as a result I have eyeballs. Now it's time for me to plug my, you know, whatever bullshit cap or, you know, like just product that I could sell. And I don't think we need more swag. I don't think we need more, you know, giftables. I don't think we need more material per se. I think we need more connection to ourselves, first of all.
Yeah.
And if I can exhibit and if I can underline the importance of how people kind of do this in spite of all the difficulties, they reflect and, you know, like get to the point where they're kind of making strides to connect with themselves. And if I can display that, perfect. Then people have like an idea of, okay, this is what it looks like when you're actually living true to yourself. This is what it looks like when you're grateful. This is what it looks like when you're happy, you know? So yeah, I think it's important that people like you and I make content.
Well, I mean, you know, that's one thing I must, you know, thank Chiang Mai for.
Absolutely.
In my time in Asia. You know, the ability to connect has been made so much more easier. You know, for those living in Southeast Asia or even Asia in general, you know, it's a very quick, rapid pace of movement. So, you know, you never really get the time to really find the like-minded people,
right.
or you have to go searching very deep to find the like-minded people, you know. So I appreciate these types of, you know, conversations, because it really takes you beyond the realm of just going and get pissed, you know, just gonna go to a dispensary and you know, get high, you know. It's fruitful conversations, fruitful networking, fruitful opportunities, just different ways that we could all express and understand the value of the expression. And, you know, that's what it has come down to me for now in terms of the content that I am putting out, or the things that I want to put forth. You know, it's not only no longer just for me, it's how could I add value to someone else, or what lessons from my story could someone get some value from. You know, it's not about just going out having fun and having a lot of money to spend. You know, now it's like going back to the roots, which is the inner self. You know, and how has yourself developed? How has your talents, your skills, and your ability to help others?
Absolutely.
You know, how has that developed? So
And you find it easier for this to happen in Asia?
specifically, I would say in Chiang Mai. You know, I've been living in Asia now for 6 years. I was 4 years in Vietnam, 1 year in Cambodia, and for me, community wasn't impossible to find.
Sure.
But it wasn't the easiest, you know, to find. And I feel like Chiang Mai specifically was the area or the place that I was able to find these types of communities where, man, as we know, there's a WhatsApp group for everything.
Oh, totally, man. Yeah, changing your light bulb, we got a group for that.
Group
you
for
know?
that,
You want to learn how to tie your shoelaces? We got a group for
probably
that.
a group for So even in discovering that, you know, it brought a whole new other perspective of truly what community means.
Right.
Truly what being your brother's keeper, you know. We're just seeing the way that everyone is getting involved here in Chiang Mai. You know, people who come as foreigners, people who come as expats, people who come as travelers, you know, like we all have that yearning meaning to connect or want to connect. And I feel this space has given me the opportunity to find these types of connections. And it goes way beyond Asia, man. Chiang Mai is special. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I keep hearing this from people. Question about Trinidad. You didn't have the same kind of community there? Or like what kind of initiated you to say, okay, like I want to do something else. I want to go somewhere else 6 years ago? That was like 2018. Damn, right before COVID too.
That was November. I left on November the 9th,
Oh, it's coming up.
2018.
The sixth anniversary.
Sixth anniversary is coming soon, you know.
Yeah.
But what inspired my move, you know, well, this goes back until I was 6 years old, bro.
Take me.
Since I was 6 years old, I always knew that I wanted to be a pilot.
Oh.
That's where the whole
very fascinating.
the light bulb effect went off since I was a baby, you know. I always had this passion for traveling, but at least in my country, you know, the most famous places that people tend to go to is where most of our diaspora lives, which would be America,
Sure.
England, and Canada.
Was Rihanna from Trinidad as well?
So Rihanna is from Barbados.
Oh, Barbados.
That's
okay.
about a 3-hour flight from Trinidad, so
Okay.
it's still within the southern Caribbean region. And for me personally, it was just a time of reflection. You know, I just finished university.
What did you study, by the way?
So I did a double major in communication studies and international relations.
Okay.
I did a bit of Spanish underneath that to just give me another language.
Sí,
so
sí.
thankful that I got at least one other language under my belt, you
Nice.
know. But What actually sparked this change, bro, is actually it actually came from a racist conversation in my country, believe it or not, man. So yeah, I mean, in my country, there is some form of racism between the Indian community and the African community.
Indian community.
Yeah. So after slavery took place in Trinidad, the African slaves were given their freedom. Then this started a whole new indentureship period where they had indentured laborers, and they brought them from India. So those are the two main not settlers, the two main
immigrants.
The immigrants, forced immigrants, that actually started the whole population in Trinidad. So, down to our politics, it's based on race. There's the African party, there's the Indian party. So, these tensions have been going on for years. Eon years, and quickly, just the story, I was trying to leave my university that night, and my car just was not starting. Like, I was like, damn, like, guess it's one of these, Betsy was loyal though. Shout out to Betsy, my little old 1998 Hyundai accent,
Oh God, it's like like it just takes you off the ground, Like
it gets you there, but there's gonna be a lot of problems, that's for sure, a lot of stresses, And there was this one guy of Indian descent who he came. And bro, within 2 seconds, I don't know what this guy did. If he clicked his fingers, the car just started going again. So I was like, damn, I need to learn some mechanics, bro.
Or some prayers or something.
Or something, man, because it looked like this guy just snapped his finger and got it. And he got into this whole conversation with me, bro. Like, he just started talking to me. My car is probably running for like 45 minutes now. And this guy has been telling me his life story.
Wow.
He's not getting along with his parents. His best friend stole his girl and he wants to kill his best friend. Like, he went very deep into like his personal problems. I didn't ask this guy a question, bro.
Whoa.
And I think at this moment
he was supercharged.
He was either supercharged or he just needed someone to talk to.
Right.
At that point in time, and that situation gave him the ability. So we're 45 minutes into this conversation now. And he stops after a while and he says, I'm like, if my friends, I'm assuming at this point it's his Indian friends that he's talking about, based on what he said after.
Gotcha.
He said, if my friends saw me speaking to you, they would think something is wrong or weird with me.
Oh.
So I'm taken aback a bit.
What do you mean?
I was like, what do you mean, bro? I was like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I'm going to censor the word, but you'll know what I'm about to say. He was like, well, I don't really like trigger people.
Oh.
And I'm like...
You don't like it? He said, I don't
yeah,
like it.
And he said it plain and direct. There was no hesitation, after like my why, He's like, yeah, well, I don't really like trigger people. So now I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, in my head, I'm thinking, bro, you've just been telling me your life story for 45 minutes.
Homie, you don't act like you don't like us, You
don't act like you like trigger people. So then I was like, very confused. I looked at him and I said, so why are you speaking to me?
Yeah.
Why have you been speaking to me?
Yeah.
It's been 45 minutes,
Yeah.
This was his response, bro. He was like, well, nah, you're not like the rest of them trigger people. I'm like, what?
No, you're special. That's why I fixed your car.
At this point, bro, like, I am confused. I have no idea what's going on. And in my head, like, to be honest, like, there was like this 50-50 part in my body. Like, half of me was getting angry and upset, and the other half was just confused. Because I'm like, first of all, you've been telling me your whole life story. You don't like me. You don't like us. I'm special. Like, I'm just confused at this point. And at that point, I had a very big decision to make because I was starting to feel a bit infuriated on the inside,
Yeah.
So I simply said to the guy, I said, bro, it's time for me to leave. By this time my car's probably running 50 minutes on. I'm like, yeah, you get enough juice. We could get out of here. This ain't worth it anymore. Yeah. And as I'm about to leave, bro, the guy tells me something which has changed my life forever, actually. Okay. He says, I'll tell you something because I like you.
Write it down.
And I remember in my head, I was thinking at that point, bro, if you only mention that word one more time. Like, this is me in my head thinking, I was like, no, now you're really pushing it. You know, like, if what I think you're going to say, you actually come out and say something along the lines of the words or whatever. But he says, I'll tell you something because I like you. At this point, I'm like, what, bro? What?
What could it be?
What could it be? This is what this guy said to me. He said, you could plant a tree 20 years ago, or you could plant a tree now.
Yeah, the open of it is like the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is right now.
Bro, I said, thank you, bro, and I sat down in my car. I sat down in my car for the next, my pause is raising as I'm telling you this actually. I sat in my car for the next 10 minutes, and the only thing I could remember was the last two sentences that this guy told me. You could plant a tree 20 years ago, or you could plant a tree now.
Absolutely.
I sat down in that car for 10 minutes, and on that day, I said, I'm going to plant my tree now.
There it is.
That sparked everything, bro.
So you had to go through all of those emotions for this guy to, you know, give you this kind of insight.
To give me this insight. And, you know, upon reflection, had I been that angry person where because of the words that we used or the meaning in which it was communicated, you know, like obviously it's meant to hurt, you know, it's meant to injure, to spike, you know. Yeah. And had I given the reaction that you would normally get in my country when racism takes place, I would have missed the message. And, you know, it goes back to what we were saying earlier about having to suffer to get your happiness, you know, like that was a moment of suffering where I was suffering within myself to actually keep my calm, keep my composure, to know that it's not worth it. But had I had the opposite feeling or the reactive type of feeling, you know, I would have missed those last two sentences that was supposed to come my way. That changed my life forever, bro. That sparked the entire course for the next couple of months before I left.
So, like, what was the planting of the tree at that moment when you said, okay, I'm going to plant my tree? What was that?
So at that point, the planting of the tree was to get out of Trinidad.
I'm not trying to, like, listen to another 45 minutes of freaking...
It's not only that, you know, I mean, where I come from, bro, like, it's 2 islands.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about
So a little bit about Trinidad. You know, Trinidad, it's 2 islands, but it's 1 country. We are very, very close to South America, but we do not touch the continent. We are the most southern Caribbean people country. Within that country, there's a population of 1.5 million people.
Gotcha.
You know, I'm one of 1.5 million people. So in a case like that, you know, I'm not sure if you know of this term, like crabs fighting in a bucket.
I kind of get the imagery.
It's that concept of your successes, it comes with a lot of crabs fighting in a bucket, you know. It's obviously like the truth remains the same everywhere else in the world. It's never about what you know, it's who you know. If you're not connected with the right people, if you are not just a real go-getter, bro, like an absolute go-getter, if you're dependent on the government, which a lot of people tend to have to do, you know, depend on the government. And
it's built that way, so you're dependent.
You know? And you complain if your life is not going the way you want it to do. You know, you always blame the government or something like that. And I never really had that type of mentality. I don't mean this in an egotistical way, but I always saw myself beyond Trinidad and Tobago. I always saw the things that I wanted to do, the plans that I wanted to accomplish. I knew it could probably be 10 to 15 to 20 times more difficult if I tried to stay within this very small region. You know, I needed more. I needed to explore, to see the world, to understand what this pilot dream could eventually look like.
I was just gonna say, if you wanted to be a pilot, of course, like you would want to see expand your horizons.
That's the natural progression, you know. So at this point now, I was accepted to do a master's in Jamaica.
Nice.
So initially, Jamaica was going to be the get out of Trinidad, and yeah, my life changed at a party one more time. There were 2. That was the initial. The encounter with the guy was the initial understanding of what it is to now plant the seeds. Then a follow-up meeting that I had with someone is actually what caused the action part of it to actually take place.
Okay,
That's
so
it.
the gears started turning with the Indian guy.
With this-
How old were you when that happened?
At this point, I was
19?
20. No, I left when I was 25, so I was about 24 because I celebrated. No, I was 24.
Mhm.
No, I was 25. 25.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
I was
mhm.
25 at this point.
Mhm.
And this was the other part of the wheels starting to turn. You know, I went to this party
Mhm.
with a friend of mine. It was actually his cousin's party, birthday party or something.
Is it in Jamaica? No, it's in
No,
Trinidad.
This
yeah,
is in
right.
Trinidad. So I haven't left yet. I'm getting ready to go.
Right. Your gears are
I'm-
turning.
I'm
You're
gears
like,
are
how can
turning.
I do it? You know, and find
I'm
an
like, all
opening.
right, Jamaica is there.
Mhm.
Okay, at least this is step one.
Okay.
You know, and I go at this party and I meet this woman. I'll never forget her name, bro. Shayna Green.
Sheena Green.
Shayna Green. We sat down, we started talking,
Mm.
and this girl literally just came back. I think it was from either Philippines or Vietnam. She was living in Asia for almost 6 years.
Wow.
You
So
know,
she's got like that energy, like that Asian
you could
vibe.
just feel the difference, bro. Like she
for
was not
sure.
like anyone else in
Yeah,
that
yeah,
room.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you could
yeah.
just feel when someone is on a different type of vibration.
For
She was
sure.
exuding that, and bro, we spoke all night, bro. She told me about teaching abroad. You know how it's. You know, she came out here teaching English. And at this point, she was going through her Instagram, but she had been to like almost every country in Southeast Asia and Asia
Nice.
in its whole stuff. And I'm just looking through Instagram, and I'm like, you did all of this from just teaching?
Mhm.
She's like, yeah, bro. Like this is the foot in,
Mhm.
and you know, once you get in Asia, the possibilities are endless. You know,
Absolutely.
bro. After that night, I went home. And all I could think about was that conversation that I had with this girl, bro. Like, I just started just looking, researching. So this was probably around, I met Shayna in April 2018. Yeah, I'll never forget. April 2018. Started doing my research. Initially, I was going to come to Thailand or to China. You know, Thailand had always been on my list. I always wanted to go to Thailand, you know, from all the movies that you'd see from in the Western
James
world, you know,
Bond,
the beach, you know, like all these different concepts. You're thinking Thailand is the way. And then my friend who I went to the party with, he was considering going as well. So we were kind of like doing it as buddies.
In tandem a little bit.
Yeah, at the same time. And then, you know, he turned around and he was like, bro, you should try Vietnam. Like, you know, I've noticed, well, from my research, you know, it's low cost of living, but very, very high salaries. So I said, okay. I was like, you know, for us, at least in the Caribbean, you know, when we heard about Vietnam or these things, it was always associated with the war.
Yeah.
Because that's what the American media,
Of course. That's what
was going
they're
to
pushing.
portray and show us, you know. So in my head, I'm thinking, damn, am I going to go to this war country? Like, what's going on?
Sure.
And this is how I made my decision for Vietnam, bro. I went to Google.
Yep.
I wrote Vietnam. I clicked images. Those first page of images, I didn't even start scrolling yet. Those first images that came up just on that instant page, I looked at it and I said, I'm going to Vietnam. Legit.
Simple.
That's no research.
It was enough.
No, nothing. Obviously, I spent the other couple of months researching, but that was when I said, I'm going to Vietnam. So I go to my mom that night. I said, Mom, I'm going to Vietnam. She's like, what?
Why? Have you lost your mind?
Yeah. She's like, are you okay? What's going on? She's like, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to Vietnam, bro. I don't know if she thought I was joking
Yeah.
or what, but bro, 6 months later, one-way ticket. I was in Vietnam 6 months later, bro.
Damn.
That's where the journey started.
Wow. That's a good, I mean, I'm amazed that you remember all of this, but at
It
the
changed
same,
my life, bro.
yeah, like the same time, not surprised at all, because obviously it kind of like dominoes, you know, almost like this one guy like knocks something down and this other person knocks another thing down, and the next thing you know, you're searching, yeah.
It's life-changing, bro. It was a very bold and brave decision, but knowing what came after and what was to come after, it was something that I could have never dreamed about, you know. Seeing the world, living this experience, you know, even though I'm not at this pinnacle of reaching this pilot dream, you know, it has never stopped, you know. This is all I've been working on since I've been here, is doing this without a loan.
Yeah.
Getting the money without having to go to a bank.
Yeah.
and say, no, I'm going to pay for my training
There
all
you
up
go.
front. And yeah, life took its course, obviously, this wasn't an easy journey
Sure.
at all. We went through COVID and then some other stuff. I had to leave Vietnam, ended up in Cambodia. After Cambodia, ended up in Thailand. It did have its whole challenges, but is it something that I would do again? 1,000%.
Would you do anything different?
Yeah.
So many things.
I definitely would do, but hindsight is always 2020.
Of course.
Like it's always 2020. You
course.
only learn again, going back to with the suffering
True.
before the success. Like you have to go through mess ups and hurdles for you to really understand what the finish line or what is to come at the finish line. It's never easy. But yes, I would do a lot of things differently, but there's this piece within me now that knows everything led me to here right now, right where I am. So I have to be grateful
Yes.
and give gratitude towards that.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I made this one video about, I said like, oh, this is my trip to visa runs, because in Thailand you kind of have to do the visa runs. But I turned it into this kind of, I like this video a lot, about learning from mistakes. So the first layer is like learning from your own mistakes. Hindsight's always 2020.
Yeah.
Next level is learning from other people's mistakes. So like, okay, I did this, it's wrong. Like suggest that you take a different route.
Yeah.
But the last layer is my favorite layer, and it's learning from other people's success. So if someone did something right and they're successful, and it's something that you want to do as well, it's
Yes.
much better to ask them. It's like, okay, I want to push an album and I want to make it very successful. Then just look at people like kind of like you who have done it in the past and sort of like consult and look at their trajectory, and that's kind of like a good way to make sure that at least you're doing whatever is successful on
Yeah.
paper, and like you take it from there. So is there any people that you've kind of looked at to avoid their mistake or try to like replicate their success?
Well, that's a very it's a broad question based on like all these things that I'm currently doing and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Personally, for me, it's just a lot now about like really focusing within. I think learning from other people's successes works when, for example, you said the music,
Sure.
like, or even content, even from this situation, I'm
Yeah.
going to learn something, because in my eyes, what you're doing is something that I'm going to be doing. And, I saw how you put it together, how you laid it out, how you got the sound going. These are things that I would be learning and taking in
Yeah.
as I'm watching everything. I'm a very observant and
Sponge.
digestible. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
digest
yeah, yeah.
information very quickly. When it came to like the traveling and figuring out all these things, like sadly enough, I didn't have anyone to look at, because the people who I would personally say, like the males who would do content for the black community, it's not really something that you see
Yeah.
really rapidly when it comes to the travel. And like a lot of black females, yes,
Yes, sure.
they document, they vlog, they get their reels, they do everything. And obviously all the other males, like like all the different races, like yeah, you could find these people, but for me it was something that was kind of very difficult to do in the travel sense of things. So for me it it felt like I had to like learn all these things on my own, like learn from my mistakes, learn from all these things. But in terms of like now I'm into things like marketing, digital marketing, music, product design, graphics, content. Yeah, man, like I just keep looking at people, man. I just keep looking and seeing, okay, why is this person getting this reach, or how is this person created this sound, how did they create this like this cool app, you know? And this is what I've been digesting now. But it took a while to get here, because when life is lifing, when life is lifing, it's very, unless your mind is not on that focus of, okay, now I'm a student, you're always this student and humble in the game. Once you got to deal with your day to day, I guess I've had very hard times here as well, but Asia never kicked my ass so hard, where it was never irreparable.
Right.
Oh, sorry, is that a word, or is
Yeah,
it
no.
unrepairable?
Irreparable.
Irreparable.
There you
All
go,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, it never got to that point, and You know, that's what I would say to anyone here. It's, you have to be doing the most to fail in Asia.
Of course.
You
of
have
course.
to really, really try your best
Yes,
to actually
yes.
not be able to find your foot in here. You know, there's so many opportunities. Hope I didn't dive too much from the question, you know, because it comes from
perfect.
comes on two different sides
Mhm.
of where you could see the successes and how others have done it. You know, this is actually what I want to kind of provide for people from my region.
Sure.
You know, people who look like me. You know, because I didn't have a playbook.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying I have all the knowledge, but the knowledge that I have now, I know it's enough that I could share
Nice.
and I could help and, you know, I could educate, not for personal gratification.
No.
You know, the only gratification I would get out of it is knowing that I'm able to teach what I learn.
There it is. It's like you've
You know?
actually internalized the thing that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yes.
And it's awesome that you're kind of this pioneer kind of person. Obviously, when you look at, you know, Western countries with like stronger passports, like it's really easy to just travel and like have content, and like it's easy to learn from other people's success. So going back to the question, it's like for your position, it's like a pioneer position, you know, like
Yeah.
you don't have much examples to follow. So you have to carve your own path. It can be challenging, but
Yeah.
also the fruits are going to be way more tasty, I think, at the end of it, because you'll have this newfound perspective that you've not only created yourself, but also like learned on the job, which
Yeah.
like I think that's kind of like a consistent theme in your life where you
Oh,
like
bro.
just jump into it
You
and then
have
freaking
no
like
idea.
wing it.
Let's talk about winging. But yeah, bro, you know, I think that's something that I've basically had to do like all my life, you know, ever since I was small. You know, I've always
Yeah.
had this curious mind, and I was always someone who was, regardless if there would be moments of fear, I always had these two like traits that I think has led my life, which is bravery and resilience.
There you go.
So for me, it's a matter of, okay, if I'm not allowed to walk in this door, I'm going to kick it down. I'm going to enter, you know, obviously with limitations of, with limits, of course,
Sure.
you know, based on the scenario. But no, like if I really want something, like I'm going to figure it out, you know, and regardless to which avenue I take, whether it's through education, through experience, through just looking around and observing, you know, there's always a way. And that's what I want to kind of promote with who I could see I could help, you know, that regardless of where you are, what's your situation, if you really want it, bro,
Yeah.
and if you really have the discipline to put the effort in, then it's possible. you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
If you want it as hard as you want to breathe, you know, like when you're drowning, you really want that air, you know, like
Yeah,
you're like,
you know.
so if you want anything in life as hard as you want to breathe, it's just a matter of time
Yeah. And effort. you
and
know.
effort too.
You know, it's, trust me, man, like there's some long days. There's long days of grinding, you know. I've done multiple projects at this point since
Yeah.
I've been here, and there was no project that I started here that was so easy and simple that, you know, I could sleep and wake up feeling energized to go again, you know.
Yeah.
These are where, like, you know, gym and coffee and all
Yeah,
these things
yeah,
come in
yeah.
to help with that, but it's always that message of it's possible, but you have to put the work in.
Yeah.
And this is me still talking to myself, because
Of
I
course.
know, you know, there's still a lot of more that I could be doing, but sometimes I also have to learn when to just chill
Yes.
for a bit. You know?
Yes.
And I think I'm in the perfect combo now of being able to balance both of them.
Yeah. I was watching this one famous director, David. He's like big into transcendental meditation. He's like got this like, I forget his name. What was his name? Anyway, he was like, there's 3 rules to show business. Number 1, like look people in the eye, speak from the heart.
Yeah.
Number 2, you need to leave in order to come back. So that's the thing that you were talking about of like, okay, if I want to like be like efficient, and if I want to give my all, I need to like chill for a minute, because I can't be like overtime,
Yeah.
like bump, 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 bump. Number 3 was, if someone is telling you a secret, it's almost always a lie. So if someone says, oh, like, just keep this as a secret,
Just keep
you
this
know,
a secret.
that means it's a lie.
Them is the shaky ones, bro.
Yeah.
Them is the ones I'm like, damn, how many people are you telling this to?
Exactly.
You know? Keep my secret. Nah,
Exactly.
I don't like that.
Yeah, me neither. But thankfully in Asia, I was going to ask you this too. So I don't see a lot of people from like your region, so have you seen any sort of like differences? I would assume that you'd be like way more comfortable than anywhere in the world being in Asia, but obviously your experience is way more valid. So what do you say about like just like do you get looks and like do you get like a different kind of like treatment than anywhere else?
I guess it depends on like where you are. You know, in Thailand, for example, Thailand has probably been the one location that it has had the least.
Oh, okay.
And from just looking around and assuming, you know, there's a lot of people who look like me here. You know, I'm not standing out like a sore thumb. You know, the black community in Thailand is very. I mean, obviously compared to the others that are here, it's obviously not in like a high ranking,
right?
Obviously, but you know, this is the first place where I've met so many different black people from all over the world. You know, I didn't get this experience in Cambodia and in Vietnam. But Vietnam, for example, that was the one place where, bro, you felt like a celebrity, bro. Like, and it could be both in good and bad ways. You know, like people want to touch your hair. They want to take pictures with you, bro. I had this one guy, bro. Like, I'm sitting down at a beer hoy. That's like a beer place in Hanoi, and this guy, like, he comes from the back of me, and he literally comes and like whips his hand around me with his phone already on selfie mode to like take a picture.
He's like, oh my god, like, this is the first time I have to make it count.
But it's the confidence, bro. It's the resilience. He didn't even come and be like, you know, Emoy, like Moy Poto. No, bro. He's like, so you know, things like that.
I'm taking this photo, so you better fucking smile.
Be there. And you know, at that case, I was like, no, bro. Like, I told him no at that point because, you know, like, it took me a while to be able to understand their side of what I represent when they see them. And then it took me to understand like my reactions towards their reactions. You know?
That is so like thinking about thinking. That's really freaking insightful, man. Yeah,
you know, like, you know, it really does like change your perception of what you allow and what you don't allow. And I think this is where I had to like understand the value of, I guess, boundaries when it came to myself with the interactions of people. You know, it depends on your approach.
Sure.
You know, I would allow certain things based on the approach. So there'd be certain people who would come and be like, hello, you know, like, I really like your hair, you know, can I get a picture? You know, and, you know, from the energy, I'd be like, okay, cool, you know, like, you could take a picture with me. And there'd be some people who would come so direct, you know, I'd be like, okay, 100K, VND, you know, just making humor out of it, you know, charge people for it or whatever. But then they would, you know, and I'm just like 100K, bro, like this ain't free. And then there'd be the ones who would just come so weirdly and irky and just like off energy like, kind of vibe because
wallet, like,
because I know it wasn't even that. It for me it was like, where do these pictures end up? like
that's what, a real concern.
Like, what do they do with these photos
after they using get AI them? To like put you in different kind of like
they send it to their friends with like, guys, found a black one, bro. Look what I found. I'm so cool. You know, so like
it's like a mythical being.
Yeah, this used to be the thing. Where do these photos end up? You know, and you know, I'm not sure what it is in Thailand, but in Vietnam, when they ask for one picture, the shutter speeds of their fingers, bro, they take like 130 seconds.
They're making a short documentary on that.
Yeah. Whole documentary, bro. You know, so in terms of the looks and stuff, like, it will, you know, especially as you travel around Asia, you know, like when I was in Korea, for example, you know, there's people would watch you, they would smile, and some people would look at you and like they're confused, you know. It's just the different looks. Here in Thailand, they see me, they smile, bro. Like especially like this random guys who on a truck like going to work, or like this random person on a motorbike. They look at you and then they just have this endearing smile on their face, and you know, it's interesting. Have I faced racist experiences while I've been out here in the general scope of living in three places? Yes. But has it outpowered the curiosity or the positive attention that I've received here? No. You know, so that is what I would want to say to anyone, you know, especially looking like me where you come from, like, you will never not ever experience it, but it's not like an everyday 24 hour of the day kind of thing. And to be very honest, most of the racist experiences that I have experienced actually came from Westerners.
Of course.
More than like the locals
Of course.
of where
I asked this because I want for people who are watching from back home or from, like I have like a wide audience range. And last time I was speaking to Dan. Dan's also this American guy, this African American guy who does Northgate Tuesday night open mic. So he's like a MC.
A regular,
yeah.
Dan, sure Dan.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Dan.
I know Dan. I know Dan. Yeah,
he's so cool.
yeah.
And I asked him some like outlandish questions on like the show. I was like, do you hate?
Sorry for saying short Dan.
Shout out to Dan. He's the short king.
He's the short king.
He's the short king. Yeah, we love him. And I was asking him like similar questions. Just so that, like, obviously my personal curiosity, but also like if onlookers are kind of like hesitant about like, oh, should I travel? Should I not? Like, don't be scared, man. Like, it's not as bad as you think it is, and possibly the benefits that you will get from this experience of like putting yourself out there and being vulnerable and possibly encountering some, untasty, like, distasteful experiences
along the way. Yeah,
it's the positive is going to far outweigh the negative. Like that's what I've been collecting so far.
And it really deals with your mindset.
Totally.
If you have a complaining soul, or you look around and it's not what you're accustomed to from back home. That's
right.
Even going beyond the racism or the ways in which you're treated, I've also noticed like this syndrome of, I call it the Western world syndrome.
Okay.
You come from a Western country and you just complain because this is not how it would be back in England. This is not how it is in the States. And it's like, well, duh, like you're in Asia, bro. Like you can't expect this same type of development, or this high level of efficiency because of where you are and where you came from, so like, a complaining mindset, don't come here, like someone who's not really open to just accepting, you have to really be a sponge out there,
For sure.
For me, one experience that really took me a while to understand when I came here, where I had to make one of the biggest changes was, when I first came here, I was speaking in full Trini. Like the way I'm speaking to you now. If I'm talking to my friends, I'm still in that mood. So I'm fresh off the plane, here for 2 weeks, here for a month, and bro, no one could understand a word that was coming out of my mouth because, I was still in that culture.
Sure.
I was still in that mindset of this is how I speak, this is what I know. But then I wouldn't be understood.
People are like, what are you saying?
What are you saying? I'd always have to repeat myself or really, really slow down.
Come again now.
Really slow down with the way in which I would have to speak. So this happened for like about 3 months. At this point now I started to think, I'm like, okay, bro, like you're outside here. You're going to have to be able to communicate, you have to make some changes from within. So at that point, shout out to Trinidad, English speaking country, but they taught us standard English from a very young age,
There we go.
So now
I totally get like the
man.
accent and everything.
So with that now, I actually had to like start speaking very slowly, almost putting on a type of accent. I don't know which one it will come across as, because some would say, are you from the US? Are you from England? And I'm like, damn, bro, who knows at this point? But you know what started happening after these 3 months? Which was also like a mind twister with me. People were finally starting to understand me.
Sure.
However, I hated the way I would hear myself sound when I speak.
Oh, that's weird. So you compromise for understanding, like for other people.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I hated the way I would hear myself speak, because you hear yourself when you speak.
Sure.
And I'm like, who am I?
Yeah. It's like metamorphoses. It's like, what am I turning into?
And when I realized how bad it got was one day I spoke to my friends back home. We were in this group chat. And I think I was on a break from, I was teaching in Saigon at that point. I think I was on a break for lunch or something. So I'm still in my teacher mode. Right. And I'm speaking to them, my friends from back home, how I would speak, and they started laughing at me, bro. They was like, who you is?
You got soft, bro. What the hell's going on with you?
Like, back home we call it a freshwater Yankee. It's like you go foreign. They say you go foreign, but you come back with an accent. You know, it's like where does fresh water come out from? And that's when it hit me, and I was like, yeah, I hate it too, but this is what I have to do. And then what I spent the next 3 months doing. So this is probably like my year, like 9 months, 3/4 of the year into my time in Asia. I had to find a way to be able to still speak with my accent, but still make it sound understandable.
Yeah, legible or intelligible. Yeah.
You know? And that is what took the process. That's what took me some time until it reached to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm satisfied with what I'm hearing coming out my mouth, and I'm being understood.
Yeah.
So it was finding that fine line where I said, okay, I accept this part of it.
That must have been like extremely, like you must have had to be very mindful of like what you're saying, how you're saying delivery, like pauses.
Yep.
That must have been like a full on experience,
It's like
filled with frustration.
Yeah.
And also like when you get to that point of like calibration, you know, it's like, okay, like I it's true to me, and also people can understand me.
It's like rewiring your entire mind, bro. Like everything that you knew for 25 years, you had to now recalibrate, restructure, refocus, and then re-engineer, you know. So it took a while, man. So now what has happened now, you know, after a while, now you get past that stage.
Sure.
So now you're like, okay, now I'm starting to make friends now, you know. I don't want to continue speaking. Like, I just want to be able to speak like how I would normally speak.
Yeah.
So now what I started doing was, once you became, I guess, like a close friend of mine or like a friend that I would see regularly, then I would let my guard down and go back into my speech and more or less teach them how I speak.
Let me show you a thing or two.
You know, so when I started whip out the Trini like I'm talking to you now, you know,
I welcome that a lot.
You know,
actually.
it's like, oh yeah, we know what you're saying now. But I couldn't just do that. It was all a training process, you know. I couldn't just say that off the get-go, you know. So the close friends that I have here, I could speak full Trini, you know. Trini, for those who don't know, it's still based off of English, but we manipulate the words. It's almost like a Creole.
Right.
Yeah, we manipulate the words, but it's still foundationally English, you know.
Yeah.
So
like the African American vernacular, it's like they would use words like, oh, like, you know, well, where they go, or like, oh, you know how it is.
What going on? Yeah. So for example, like, how would you say, like, you meet someone for the first time? What is your way of saying, like, hey, what's up?
Yeah. How are you?
So you would say, like, how are you? Like in Trinidad, you would say, like, where's the scene?
Where's the scene?
Which translates into English, if we speak it standardly, what's the scene? So meaning what's going on? What's the atmosphere? What's happening? But because of the way we say it in our accent, it's like, where's the scene?
Where's the scene?
Where's the scene?
Nice.
So instead of saying hello, somebody might say like, oh. So it will be like, oh, where's the scene?
Where's the scene?
Next person to say like, I'm okay, I'm good. I cool.
I cool.
I cool. You know, just basically saying I'm cool,
Yeah.
I'm okay, but
Yeah.
I cool.
I cool.
It's the vibes. You know?
Nice. It's the vibes. Fuck yes. It's and similar in Ireland. They say,
What's the crack?
Yeah.
Yeah, sound.
Yeah. What's the crack? Yeah.
Met enough Irish, man. Like I feel. You know, fun fact, bro. And I learned this when I was in Cambodia, from an Irish guy. One thing I always noticed, the Irish, when they speak, I guess it probably depends on where you're from, because I know the North has this whole other different vernacular or sound. So especially down in the South, the way that they would pronounce the T sound, the sound of the T, it reminded me so much of the way we would speak back at home, like so straightforward. And I met this one guy, and my pause is raising as I'm telling the story, bro, because it was so like, oh, damn, makes sense now. So for those of people who don't know, like, you know, the Irish community were the most passed around or enslaved Caucasian race.
Right.
They were enslaved all over the world.
Yes.
Many of them ended up in the Caribbean. So from that, like, I don't know if that influenced the way they sound like us, but it definitely had a very similar sound of the accent of what it is. So in terms of with Irish people, like I could understand what they're saying, unless they use a different word, which
Sure.
I wouldn't know. Like, what's the crack? You know, I had to learn that. But the way in which it sounds, it's so easy for me to understand. You know, so this was how I saw the relations between enslaved groups. If you wanna.
You escaped, but I escaped too. That's crazy. Yeah, you're right. Ireland is this kind of like a left field, kind of like thrown away, kind of like.
They went through struggles just like other like enslaved communities, man. I mean, it was the only Caucasian race that went through. I mean, you could say Aussies a bit.
Yeah,
kind of in that sense.
Aussies are just like prisoners.
It was mostly prisoners, But even with things like that, you know, you learn. You know, this is not something you're going to hear about in my country. Or you're not going to meet a Trini in Ireland or something like that, you know. So the mixing and the sharing of information and cultures and the things that you learn, it puts a lot of things in perspective as to, okay, this makes sense, or damn, I didn't know this. Like, you know, it's such a nice playground to learn.
Yeah,
you know,
and
like,
absolutely. I think Asia has enough culture. I mean, obviously, like it's like one of the oldest cultures in Asia. Like the philosophy over here, religion, everything is kind of like the building blocks of humanity in terms of like a philosophical existential perspective. Abrahamic religions, I don't want to be canceled, but I feel like there's a lot to unpack with the implications of these religions, you know. I think they're the core of it. Like my parents are Muslim, right? And they practice 5 times a day, their fast and everything. They just want to perpetuate the culture that they was born into, and they want to, you know, spread good kindness, and they just want to be good. But people at the top are not sharing the same kind of sentiments for how they want to conduct the religion, you know. So if you go higher up, then you have more people under you, and when you have all that power, it's a true test of personality, you know. And I've only seen people fail. There's very few people in historical contexts that, you know, we read books about that are like immaculate. They're kind of like perfect, but those people don't really hang out with people. Like people kind of find them and they're like, oh, please, like give me something, you know, but like they don't want to hang out with people because they know, you know, that the power that they would have over this person, and they don't want to try it. So I think like organized religion is kind of questionable, like with how it's being practiced and how it's kind of manifesting in the world right now. It's just like looking at Middle East, you know.
It's crazy, man.
What's the religion in Trinidad? Christians?
So we have a bunch, to be honest. I would say the main one probably is Christianity, because obviously Spain and England were our colonizers, but then we also have like a very huge Muslim community, very big Hindu community, obviously. So African Hinduism and I would say Islam are like the three big deals of religion in my country. Especially now, you know, there's a lot of people who actually convert to Islam as well. So it's very interesting. It's actually one more fun fact of Trinidad.
Lay it down.
In 1990, I think it was July the 7th, 1990, it was the only attempted Islamic coup in the Western Hemisphere. The Islamic group in my country held my country's government ransom for about 6 days. 6 days.
Damn, it's a big enough community then.
I mean, this guy was a legend, but rest in peace to Abu Bakr, man. But he was a very well respected. His name was Yassin Abu Bakr. Abu
Bakr, wasn't that the Prophet's?
So obviously, I don't know if he would have gone over to Mecca and all these places and get his knowledge or whatever. I don't know how they did. How these communities get their names or choose themselves as leaders, but he was a very, very respected and I guess almost feared, because you know, in my country, the Muslim community, the perception of them are like, you know, they have a lot of guns, they have a lot of weapons. I don't want to say extremists because these acts don't take place in extreme ways in my country, but you know, these are like the stereotypes that, you know, the Muslim community is, you know, actually in my country, the two biggest gangs actually is based on religion. So you have the Muslim gang and the Rasta gang.
Oh, Rasta.
So Rasta City, and what do the Muslim? Yeah, just Muslim. So it's either you're Muslim or you're Rasta. That's what the two main gangs in my country.
That's your blood and your Crips.
That's the blood and the Crips of the Trinidadians, you know. So yeah, it's just a mixture of all these things. And even Rastafarianism, you know, that in its own
You got
stuff.
Jamaicans there as well?
Well, I mean, you got a lot of Caribbeaners within Trinidad, but I mean, Rastafarianism is rampant throughout the Caribbean.
Okay, it's not just a Jamaica thing.
No, it's
Okay,
everywhere,
gotcha.
man. Like there's everywhere. So even the teachings, the one thing about my country is Rastafarianism is not considered or accepted as an official religion.
Oh,
in
you
my
wouldn't
country.
see it in a document or like your ID or anything?
No. So as in that case, what has happened is, I actually did my final year study in University for Communication Studies, studying one of the sects of Rastafarianism. So they would live up in the hills. They try their best to stay away from technology, but that actually fails due to like the new youth that come up within the community. They have their own churches, they would like to have their own schools, but because they're not officially accepted as a religion, they can't legally do it. So it's, would I call that a form of oppression? Possibly, because you know they want to probably try to educate their people and the believers of their faith in their own way, but if you're not sanctioned by the government, you know, you kind of have to just do it away. So yeah, the religion community, there's so many different like webs of craziness that bring it up.
So all of these influences obviously fuel your artistic endeavors as well. You know, like all this like backdrop is kind of like, I heard DJs music right before we started, just to get me in the mood of it. And like even thinking about it right now, it's like freaking goosebumps, man. Like my heartbeat goes faster because I grew up in New York, and when I was 6-7 years old, when I was just walking around Queens, like you would see, especially in Brooklyn and Bronx, you would see all these like dudes just get together with their boom boxes, and like someone starts rhyming, you know, and like everyone's in the cipher, and like you just look at it from afar, you know, like I'm a kid, you know, like, so I'm like a little intimidated, but at the same time like very fascinated, you know, so I'm like looking at it afar, and like they don't mind you looking, you know, they know that they're in the moment. But the ciphers, and the last episode I recorded with Romy, she went to Cambodia to help out these people in the slums. They were using krupp dance and just hip hop to just release emotions, rather than like, you know, fall into chemicals or, you know, like just bad ways of living, you know, like theft or whatever. And I was telling her the same thing. It's like seeing from a really early age how community is being built despite being suppressed, oppressed, and, you know, like not having a voice, you know, not having like a person to look up to. For a lot of these people, it's like, well, you look up to your father, and your father is like in prison, you know, like, or, you know, like wrongfully convicted, but you don't know that, and you're kind of angry, and you want to take revenge. It's the natural, I mean, Tupac said it best, right? Like, revenge is the sweetest joy next to getting that. But it was very fascinating to see that, and I want to learn about your musical journey. Like, were you always obsessed about sound, or did you develop it throughout the years? Like, when did the pilot dream turned into like a music dream, or the kind of?
Bro, I think I was around probably like about 14 or 15 when I started like actually like writing. Like I grew up on hip hop from a very young age, obviously. You know? I used to have my hip hop stuff on cassettes.
You made some mixtapes
back in the days. Well, no, it wasn't my music. This was like when I was discovering music. You know, I don't know if you guys are familiar with how we used to like record stuff on a cassette, but you know, you'd be playing the music on the radio. And then you'd have to press like the record and the play button at the same time. And then it would start recording. And I would do that, man. And then like some of my uncles would destroy it because they was like cursing and stuff on it. And I'm like, bro, just let me listen to my music.
Expression.
Just let me. I remember my one uncle, bro. He like took the cassette and broke it in half, and he was like, "Oh, they said excessive. Ass and bitch," and I'm like, bro, like, anyway. So I think I was about. when I really decided to like not take it serious, but to actually invest.
Mhm.
You know, that's how I look at if I'm taking something a little serious.
Mhm.
You know, like this when I actually put money into it.
Right.
So I was about 7. Actually got some stuff donated from like the church that I used to go
Sure.
to. So I had like a little mixer,
Mhm.
a mic like this, you
Nice.
know, not a recording mics or
Mhm.
anything, just
Mhm.
had a little audio audition
Right.
program that, you know, we thought,
Playing around.
you know, just learning this stuff and things like that. But then when I went to Miami, I bought like an audio interface.
Nice.
I bought like an MXL condenser mic, like a little MIDI keyboard, and I upgraded the program and stuff like that. And I started just learning everything on my own, you know, like
Mhm.
making beats.
Mhm.
Shout out to MJD Beats. I don't know if you still make beats, bro,
MJ.
but it was this guy in the States, bro, who used to just release like free music on YouTube.
Uh-huh.
And I sent him an email. I'm like, bro, like, want to do this
Collab.
project. Is it possible you can send me some beats or whatever?
Uh-huh.
He sent me like about a beat pack of, I think it was probably like 20 or 30 beat packs.
Mhm.
And he said, yeah, bro, you're free to use any of these or whatever. Just give me like the credit and
Very
things.
graceful.
Back in these days, YouTube wasn't YouTubing like that as yet, you know, YouTube. It was probably around,
The
but
good days of YouTube.
yeah, these are like back in the days. So Bandcamp.
Bandcamp. Yeah. Of course. Yeah,
Bandcamp
yeah,
as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So I released 2 albums, one in 2011.
Instrumental, or did you write music on it too?
Yeah,
Or write
all-
lyrics?
all-
Oh,
yeah,
everything.
It's still
Damn,
it's still there to
there?
this day, bro. Like you could hear the switch in quality of music. Like when I look back at it now, I'm like,
Cringe.
damn, bro. But yeah, I did one in 2011 called Players Love, and then the second one was called Writer's Block.
Writer's block.
Writer's Block.
That's true. That's
yeah.
real.
That was it there. And it was only actually like after that time, you know, I built a whole studio in my house. I had like a cupboard. I took
Eggshell
all my
boxes.
clothes out, the eggshell spray painted black, sponge, you know, like we thinking we the bomb at that point in
DIY.
time. And like had all my homies would come over on like school vacations and stuff, and we just be recording music whole day, bro. Like
Nice.
those were the good times, you know, like you
Mm.
didn't have no responsibilities,
Sure.
still living with mom and dad, like
Yeah. No rent.
no rent, you
Yeah.
know. And eventually, like, you know, just wasn't really trying to take this as like a serious, like, oh, I'm trying to hit the charts or
Right.
become like a millionaire for this. It was just me putting my expression the way that I felt the most like comfortable. So eventually sold the studio equipment,
Mhm.
wanted some money, you know. I was like, yeah. And I only really started getting back to it in Asia when I came to Vietnam. That's when I started recording again.
Oh, is
Yeah.
it like a series of triggers that kind of led you to it, or were you like, oh, like I have this part of me that I haven't been like doing so much, but I guess like the business that you had in Vietnam kind of like was like a little hiatus.
Well, this was before my restaurant,
Oh, okay.
actually. So when I no.
Around
Was
the time,
this?
probably.
This was probably a couple months before I opened my business, because this was probably 2020. Yeah.
Mm.
So I turned 27 July 2020,
Mhm.
and my business opened December the 12th 2020. That's when I
Damn, how
had
do
like
you
my
remember all these, man?
because there were major life's milestones in my like experience of learning. You
Right.
know, the experience of growth. You know,
Sure.
these are days that you
Do
just
you,
don't
do you
forget.
write? Do you take journals and stuff?
Yeah, I write down
Oh,
a lot
okay.
of stuff as well.
Mhm.
But then, you know, they're always in the head regardless, man. So
Yeah.
it's almost like my backup drive.
Yeah.
But what inspired the music starting back
Mm.
here? I was turning 27,
Yep.
and I was like, you know, what am I gonna do for my birthday? You know, I was like, I want to write a song.
There you go.
I want to write a song for
That's
my birthday. I'm
great.
like, this is like my birthday present
Mm.
to like myself. So,
Mm.
how did I find this producer? Shout out to Ben, bro. Big Ben. Ben was my producer in Vietnam, guy from South Africa.
Mhm.
I really don't remember how we met each other, but we got connected.
Mhm.
Went to the studio the day of my birthday, and I was like, bro, like, I have this concept. Few months back, when did I get in my accident? Got into a really bad accident in 2019.
What was it?
A bike crash,
Oh, shit.
a hit and run actually. That in itself is a whole other story. Like, I was in the hospital for about 2 days.
Oh my god.
Then I was on bed rest for like a month.
Oh dang.
I was living in Saigon at that point in time, and it's actually that accident that inspired me to move to Hanoi.
Oh.
Again, going back to the sufferations
Oh
that
my
brings
God.
bro, that's been my life, bro. Like every sufferation has always brought some form of success, you know.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've noticed, which I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because
Mm.
if I'm to predict what's to come in the future, I'm like, damn, is there more suffering coming
Yeah.
before?
You'd be like scared when you're doing well in life, you know? It's
Yeah,
like,
because
oh,
I'm
it's
like, damn,
no,
when is it going to happen again? You know,
Yeah.
but then
It's
what
like
is it going to
bracing
bring me to
yourself.
after? You know?
The trials and tribulations.
So I just really wanted to express how that could have been it for me, because it was a really bad accident, bro. Like I've miraculously healed very well, thankfully. You know, around that time, it was the only time in Asia, bro, that I was not working as a teacher.
Oh.
I was working in Saigon at that point in time. I was working for this company called Nimbus 9,
Uh-huh.
and they were a company that makes phone cases, like
Oh, okay.
cellular phone cases.
Right.
But they would only sell to like the top 5 in America: the Verizon Wireless, AT&T, Sprint.
Right.
And then there was some Metro phone. There was some other like second tier, third tier. So I was an account manager for them, you know. So I quit my teaching job
Mm-hmm.
to go do that.
Working for the man.
I
The
mean,
big
I was
bucks.
working for the man, bro. I'm making some really big bucks as well too.
Yeah.
And then when I got into that accident,
Mm.
I was on bed rest for a month, sick leave. I had to learn how to walk again and do all these types of crazy stuff.
Damn, like you got like
Bro, it was
broken
like,
legs and
like
stuff, huh?
shattered this whole part of like
God, dude.
my knee and shit. So like that's when I realized how much pain you could feel in this part of your, like, you know, I've never broken a bone in my life before any of these things, so it's crazy.
Damn, dude.
So, you know, for me, like surviving that and then moving to Hanoi, and Hanoi is where everything changed for my life. It was when I was the most creative. It was when I got this business started. Like I was in a very good teaching job. Like life was good when I moved to Hanoi, you know. And that was the inspiration for this song, you know, just giving thanks for making it to 27, because you know that tends to be the time where people kick the buckets.
Amy Winehouse,
You
Kurt
know, the Mac
Cobain.
Millers, the
Yeah.
Kurt Cobains, you know, that's when you tend to kick the bucket. So that one was me just giving thanks for making it here and just expressing gratitude for like the change that I made moving from moving from Trinidad to Vietnam, and that's where the creative process like started officially.
And it's amazing that it's about thankfulness, because we do talk about this, and it's like, if you are, I was telling this to my mom actually, like if I didn't learn anything in my travels in the past year and a half, I've been out in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, it's that I've internalized this fact of when I'm really happy with what I have, I'm really thankful for what I have, I'm the most abundant, because everything is enough already, you know. That's not making me complacent. I'm just like really, really thankful and happy for my friends, my family, my connections, my equipment, the people, my looks, like the way I speak, everything really, like, and that's enough. Like that really is enough. That's everything, you know, that's everything that you have. And I'm open to more. I'm open to more abundance. But that doesn't sort of impede my, I'm never like, oh, why don't I have this? You know, like why does that person have it and I don't, you know? It's never a kind of, that's what I've learned from these people, you know, like just observing Asian people. They have
so humble, bro.
way less than anyone, you know? So humble.
Satisfied.
Yes.
I mean, at least what they show us, you know, or the portrayal of it is,
and conviction, you know, like whatever they're doing, like if they're selling the little sausages, and like that's also very, like they're convicted in doing that, you know. If they're making music, you hear it, you know, like you see how people like even load the little truck, you know. And like you said, like people are generally nice. They just smile at you, you know. They want to coexist together. Like they understand how the world works in a deep level, I feel like.
Do you think that's attested to their spirituality beliefs, like the Buddhism and that inner peace, or that concept of what peace within represents?
For Chiang Mai, for sure.
Yeah.
Because this region hasn't been like an active war for the past like 700-800 years.
Yeah.
So like a lot of people are like, wow, why does like girls especially say girls like, oh, I feel very safe here. Yeah. Well, it's because you don't have a lot of like masculine energy to like take land, or, you know, like just, you know, shoulder they wear in there, you know, and like that's what 700 years of peace feels like.
And you know, like, that's very interesting that you say it on that side, because when I lived in Vietnam, in Hanoi especially, I saw like the other side of what not only patriotism means, but what peace and humility actually feels like. You know, for those of you who don't know, the Vietnam War was the longest active war in history, 17 years. 5 U.S. presidents that this war went through before they were like, okay, we need to get out. And I used to teach travel and tourism. I did not know that was a subject, by the way. Travel and tourism for Cambridge when I was living in Hanoi. And living in Hanoi kind of reminds me of Chiang Mai in different ways. Like, you know how these American people are very patriotic, and you would see flags everywhere. In Hanoi, you would definitely see a Vietnamese flag everywhere, and the hammer and the sickle. You know, it would be everywhere. Like, you knew you were in Hanoi when you're there. And obviously, Hanoi won the war. You know, it's the only country, bro, in the entire world that has won a war against America. Now, what does winning a war mean? When lives have been lost on both sides, that's not something that, you know, we could speak about. You know, lives were lost, a lot of injuries still to this day is faced, but at the end, they were able to get their form of government the way that they wanted. You know, Cuba got messed up, Venezuela got messed up. Every country that America deemed fit to not have their type of diplomacy or democracy or whatever form of government that they wanted, Vietnam was the only one that was able to resist and get America to come out. And there was this one time I was sitting down in class. Now, for context as well, it's exactly like how it is here. They're super patriotic and humble. They don't complain. You don't feel like, oh, I'm Vietnamese. No, they're super humble and just
it's not like a superiority complex over here.
It's just like, we have Vietnam number one. They're very proud of where they come from. And there was one time I was sitting down, I was in a class with my kids. These were grade 9 students.
Okay, high school.
And I'm like, guys, like, if you can go to anywhere in the world, you have no budget, you have no limit, you can go to anywhere in the world and probably live, or to live, I wouldn't say travel, to live, where would you go? So I gave them like 2 minutes, write down, think of their ideas, start going around the class after that time, and many of them, I'd say 5 or 6. My class was probably like 24. For each class, I had like 3 high school classes. And about 3 or 5 of them would have given me like what I thought I would have expected to hear from everyone. The Americas, Australia, literally 5 people. America, Australia, Canada, Germany, England, the UK.
The popular ones.
I go around to the rest of the class. Where would you say? Vietnam. And then I'm like, guys, like,
are you sure?
I'm like, guys, like, the purpose of this exercise is for you to like see if you want to expand your horizon, if you're curious to like be somewhere else. Teacher, Vietnam. To hear that from students, you know, and it's not something like, they don't go around, you don't feel like you're in a country where they push that energy on you, like, you know, like, they're really just proud to be Hanoian. They're really just proud to know that, you know, because we used to speak about these things, the war, especially when it came up in terms of, how could war affect tourism, how could war affect travels. Clearly what we're seeing right now, visas, bank accounts, like economic, social, environmental causes of these things. And many of them, they probably didn't know too much about their history, because I guess their parents it's something that they've tried to like protect them from, in terms of, we went through the struggles, you know, many of them are firstborn, like their parents, all of their parents were either directly or indirectly affected from it, or they lived through it. So it's like being in a country where you can see, okay, these next generations of kids that we're teaching literally just came from a generation that, if they're over 70 years old, or 50 to 70 years old, they've seen some really deep shit. They experienced some really deep shit. So I guess now it's like this new era, this new age of Vietnam, or being a Vietnamese person.
Of course.
And that in itself had so much pride and proudness of it. And, you know, so it's a nice contrast that we see between the both, where they didn't come from a place of war, and they feel that peace and that concernment and that love. And they who comes from the other side, it's the same thing. you know.
I heard this really strong quote about how if someone has suffered loss, and if they're your friend, like keep them around because they love on a very different level than people who haven't lost anything.
Preach.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah.
Preach, man. Like, I totally understand that,
Yeah.
that statement. So, yeah, yeah.
Dude, I could do this for like hours on end. I feel like your podcast is gonna be really interesting.
I mean, there's a lot to share, bro, and I know we
Yeah.
have like time constraints and we have time
Yeah.
limits, but it's been a journey, you know,
Yeah.
and this is what I want to use to express in the music that I have coming up.
Yeah.
You know, it's
The storytelling.
showcasing how these 6 years have been. You know, everything that you're gonna hear in my music,
Mm-hmm.
it's exactly what I've experienced directly, what I've learned
Yeah.
out of it, and I think that is what I hope people could hear from it. You know, like the lessons are not just speaking to you, but it's things that have been internalized and reflected upon. You know,
Yeah.
not just the good times, you know, but especially most importantly, the times when you were down. You know, I started therapy for the first time this year
Oh.
after 30 years. You know, so
Yeah.
even for me, like my mind conditioning and my way of not only seeing myself but how I see the world, that is something that is also in the music, you know. Like how has being out here made me a better person. And I think,
Well, it's like the 6 years of living condensed into this like 3-minute track, and it's like dense, you know? It's dense enough that gets me freaking,
Yeah.
you know, like, woof. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, me too, man. You know, the project has started and it's going along well, you know. So, you know, again, this is, yes, I'm going to put them on the streaming platforms, but this is really just my diary, bro.
Yeah.
It's really
That's
just
a
an
really good way to look at it.
audio diary of my experience, and if anyone like resonates with it, like good.
Mm-hmm.
But if no one even listens to a track,
Mhm.
I'm okay with that too, because you know, people, some write, some draw.
Mhm.
I make music.
There you go.
You know, so it's just, yeah.
Awesome. You have any goodbye thoughts and any ideas you want to share?
Personally, this is something I've been telling a lot of people, especially someone that I'm coaching right now. You know, fear is your only hurdle. You know, fear is the only thing that can make you hesitate.
Yes.
You know, this is not something that everyone can just actively turn around and switch, but fear is something that could really hinder you. And my personal like suggestion or reach to people is don't operate under fear. You know, it's probably easier said than done, but
Sure.
don't let fear and money keep you back from just making a jump.
Mm-hmm.
You know, make that jump,
Yeah.
because it's either two things you're gonna end up. Gonna be happy that you made that jump, whether you succeed or fail, or you're just gonna be miserable knowing it's always something you wanted to do
Yeah.
and you never did it. And the latter would hold on to you way much stronger than if you just do it. Secondly, there's always a way to do anything that you want. Find that way. Go in search of it. It took me just a YouTube search and a conversation
There you go.
for me to realize, oh, I need to find this money.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go find it,
Mm-hmm.
because I know the next step. And don't rush, man. You know,
Yeah.
don't rush the process.
Sabai.
Don't rush the process. You know, if I was hard on myself
Mhm.
based on the amount of time that I've been here with the things that I've done and the things that I wanted to do, I'd be stressing out every day, man. You know, like you have to realize the importance of self-care and most importantly your mental. Like pay attention to your mental in everything that you're doing. So that's my just wrap up, you know.
Yeah.
Not saying everyone can just be brave, but
course not.
don't let fear rule you.
Yeah.
Don't let not having the money fool you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rush your process, and pay attention to your mentality and the development of your mentality, that and your mental, you know, those are important as well. So
Thank you so
That's
much
it.
for sharing these beautiful gems, man. I'm sure people
this is
will,
what I'm trying to live.
yeah, no, I'm sure people are gonna go back to this conversation years after and then say like, wow, like where now DJ was like at this place, you know, like sharing that wisdom, and now he's at the here, you know, and he's still doing the same shit.
So,
No, I know so, man.
keeping that energy alive, you
Hey.
know, keeping that faith and that progression alive.
Yeah, likewise. What a wonderful way to end. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in.
And thank you very much, bro. I really love what you're doing.
Yeah, likewise, brother.
Keep doing what you're doing, and I know we're all gonna see each other up there and look back at this and say, "Wow,
Yeah.
you know, we've done what we said we're gonna do, and hopefully we're all happy in the end.
Absolutely.
And satisfied.
Absolutely.
So, good job, bro.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. See you on the next one.